Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Michelle, and today we're going to be talking about 5 reasons why you may be experiencing social anxiety. Let's get into it. Someone asked the question, Michelle, how do I deal with social anxiety? And I thought this was the perfect topic for this video today, considering I have personally dealt with social anxiety in the past and I have come through on the other side with flying colors. But I'm sure there'll be times where in life where I will experience social anxiety again when it comes to new social situations and places I've never been before. Because I think everybody, well, not everybody, but there's a lot of people that experience a little anxiety and excitement whenever they're going into a new place. And so I want to give you some ways that well, first of all, I want to give you some reasons why you might be experiencing social anxiety, and then I'm going to give you tips on how to deal with it and how to go to the social event and still have a good time and be able to enjoy life. Okay, so number one is not being able to keep a conversation going. Sometimes when we're invited and go to an event or a place we've never been before with a lot of people we've never met before or don't have anything in common with, we can be fearful that we won't have anything to talk about. Maybe we don't know what to say, or we're afraid that we'll run out of topics to talk about, or we won't know how to conclude a conversation properly. So, I'm going to give you a few tips on how to combat this situation. So, when I was 27 years old, I started having this social anxiety issue out of nowhere, and I was afraid to go to places and talk to people. And so, because of this number one thing, I didn't know what to talk about with people, and I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to carry on the conversation. So, this is one of the things that I used to do before I would go to the event. So, what I would do, and I don't care if you think this is funny or cheesy, it's helpful and it may help somebody else, so I'm going to tell them. So, when I was 27 years old, I used to take these like little cards and I would write down the person's name or multiple people's name that I knew were going to be at the event. And I'd write down topics that I was either curious about or I was interested in that I could talk about with these people. And it worked. And so when these people would come up to me and say hello, I would be able to ask them about something about their life and they would be able to respond. And we kind of went back and forth, and it made it a lot easier to where I didn't have to like come up with stuff on the fly. I don't know if that's helpful for you, but it helped me back in the day. I don't usually use that too much now, but back in the day it was very helpful. So, the number one way to keep a conversation going is to actually be interested in what the person is saying. So, you're not just sitting there waiting to talk, you're actually listening and taking in the information, and you're analyzing it, and you're going to respond with a genuine question, and you're going to ask them to elaborate. So, questions is a really good way to keep a conversation going. And I use this method all the time because I'm genuinely interested in people and I really want to know about them. So I'll ask them questions, and I find that the conversation flows pretty well because after they answer a question, you can ask them to elaborate on certain areas of what the answer was to the question you asked. And then you can lead into more questions. And the way that you come up with the questions is real simple. You just have to be genuinely listening and genuinely interested in the person. And then just learn how to close a conversation kindly and be able to walk off when it's not awkward. I'm still working on this one. I don't think I've 100% conquered this one. But yeah, if you can find a good way to close it, like such as, well, it was nice talking to you, it was nice meeting you, or would you please excuse me, I'm going to head to the restroom or grab a drink. Those are all good ways of closing a conversation and making it less awkward. Number two, another reason why you might be feeling anxiety before you go to a social event is you might be putting too much importance on the people that are going to be there or the actual event itself. Sometimes we get invited to fancy events, and that's awesome because we need to broaden our world. And sometimes when we go to these fancy events, if we're not used to going to them, we can feel a little out of place. And sometimes when you go to these events, maybe there's people there that you've put importance on, and you think there's important people, or there's people with more money than I have, or something like that. And so maybe you're putting too much importance on them as far as their status, or maybe you feel like they're higher up in life than you are. But that's okay. You know, that's a human response sometimes. But what you have to realize is that they're humans and they're normal people just like you are. And they're no different from you, no matter how much money they have, no matter how fancy their clothes are, or no matter how big their house is. And once you start to realize this, once you start putting yourself at the same level as them, you know, on a human level, because that's what we are. We're all human beings. You know, our material things don't make us who we are as a person. Our humanity makes us who we are. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, or how big your house is, or how smart you think a person is. We're all human. And another thing you can do is just decide that you do fit in and that you do belong here, especially when you feel like you don't belong. Just realize that, hey, I do belong here because I was invited here. And so you can feel better in knowing that you do belong here, so that you don't have to put so much importance on maybe the people or the event itself. Just enjoy it, just let go and have a good time. Number 3, taking yourself too seriously and trying to prove yourself and impress other people is a surefire way to create social anxiety. So, what you want to do to combat this is you just want to relax and you just want to be yourself. Realize that you don't have to impress no one, that you're totally whole and complete in who you are as a person. And honestly, no one's worried about you and no one's thinking about you as much as you think they are. And I'm not saying that to be rude, because what I'm trying to say is that most people are worried about themselves and they're too busy thinking about their own selves and thinking about how they look and thinking about what they're saying and, you know, taking in the atmosphere. They're not really caring about you much. And I don't mean to say that in a rude way, but I mean they're not as fixated on you as you may think that they are. So don't take yourself too seriously. Don't feel like you have to prove yourself by trying to sound smart or educated or like you know what you're talking about, especially when it comes to a subject you definitely don't know anything about. That's a good way to mess up everything. Hold on, my computer just went out on me. Okay, but yeah, don't take yourself too seriously. You know, be yourself. You don't have to impress no one, because if people don't accept you for who you really are, and if you don't show them who you really are, then how are you going to form genuine relationships and networking people? You know what I'm saying? Number 4, don't care too much about what other people think of you. Who cares what people think, honestly? I mean, I want to live in a world where I can walk into a place and I can be who I am and not have to worry about if people like me. They should be worried about if I like them. You know, we should all be exuding a certain authenticity and genuineness. And so, if everyone's doing that, and kindness, and if everyone's doing that, then we shouldn't have any more problems with caring about what other people think. You know, we can let people judge us, and you can let them think wrong about you, that's fine. But for me, as long as I know who I am as a person, and as long as I'm confident and secure in myself and in every part of who I am, my flaws, the cool stuff about me, the interesting parts about me that maybe others don't understand, as long as I'm 100% okay with that, then that's all that matters. I really don't care what other people think, and neither should you. Number 5, fear of an expected outcome that may or may not even happen, and it happens to lean towards the negative side. A lot of times before we go to an event or party, we'll have these visions of, kind of like visions, I don't know, you can kind of project what you're going to expect when you get there. And a lot of times people will maybe see themselves walking into the party and maybe not fitting in, not being able to have those conversations. Maybe they'll see themselves looking dumb, or they'll see themselves, you know, just feeling super awkward because they went in there expecting to feel awkward. So then when they actually go, they do feel awkward. And those awkward moments do happen because they were expected. Maybe you've been invited to a Thanksgiving dinner, Thanksgiving's coming up, and maybe you're like already projecting that you're going to get triggered over certain people's political views, or you're going to get triggered over your cousin who's going to bring up the drama that happened to you last week or anything like that. And so when we project ourselves and we project these visions of what the future might be, to me, you're kind of like creating what the future will be, in my opinion. And so what I will do is when I see myself projecting like that, and it happens to the best of us, and when I see myself projecting a movie that, all this negative stuff may happen, I like to just stop dead in my tracks and flip it on its head, because those things cause anxiety, and we don't want to have anxiety. We don't want to be in those low vibe emotions, and social anxiety is a low vibe emotion. And so what you want to do is you want to actually visualize what you want to happen when you go to the event. Let's say you're going to a dinner party. You want to visualize yourself, if you're a woman, in this beautiful dress, and you've got your little fancy drink, and you visualize yourself having a good time and laughing and making conversation. And then you want to think about how you're going to feel in that situation. You're going to feel connected, and you're going to feel lit up, and you're going to feel vibrant. And then you want to envision the night ending and how you feel good and you are on fire because you've just connected with all these people and nothing went wrong and everything's fine. And so that's a good way to kind of manipulate your reality, in my opinion, because it works for me. And I'm sure if it works for me, it'll work for you. And I believe it 100%. And I think that's the main ingredient there. You can't just go into this and saying, I don't know if that'll work, but you can definitely experiment with it. So if you go into a situation at the dinner party and you're thinking, everybody's going to think I look terrible in this dress, or I'm going to fumble over my words, and so-and-so's going to be there, and I'm probably going to have a few words with her and we end up fighting. And so that's probably what you're going to create. That probably will happen because that's what you're expecting to happen. And I've had that happen to me multiple times. And it may not be perfect to the T of what I thought would happen, but it goes along the lines of it. Your mind is a very powerful tool. And so you want to use it wisely, and you want to envision the outcome the way you want it to be. And it may not be exactly how you wanted it to be and how you envisioned it in your brain, but it's going to be close. And that's good enough for me. And you're going to feel good, and you're not going to feel anxiety, and you're going to feel just better about yourself. Now, I know there may be some other reasons of why you may be feeling anxiety before a social event, but these were the 5 main ones that I came up with, and I hope it has helped you. And like with anything, this takes practice. And so I don't expect you to go into your next event totally 100%, but you're going to be a lot better than you were. And that's good. Progress over perfection. And the more you practice these tips, and the more you get used to it, it's going to become second nature to you. It's become second nature to me. That's why I don't struggle with it much anymore. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. And comment down below anything or any topics that you might be interested in hearing me teach about. I'm very open to a lot of topics. I won't teach on anything I don't know anything about. And if I've helped you in any way, or you're actually enjoying these weekly videos, if you could please just subscribe, because I have a goal of 500 subscribers by the end of the year, and hopefully I'll reach more than 500 by the end of the year. But if you could help me with that, that'd be great, and I appreciate it. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, guys.